Welcome to the DGTL Growth Podcast, where marketing leaders turn playbooks into pipeline. I'm Suse Barnes. Today I'm joined by Dr. Charles DeBettignies of Gainsharing Inc. I know I butchered that already, didn't I? You can tell us how to say it. Before the show started, he was saying, say spaghetti. So, DeBetty. There you go. Yes. For over 20 years, Chuck has helped manufacturing and industrial companies dramatically improve productivity and reduce labor costs, not by hiring more people, but by aligning incentives with the outcomes leaders care about. He's an expert in performance-based pay, superior effectiveness, and operational clarity. His performance helps companies transform their culture and results in a matter of months. Chuck, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Great. And let's start by hearing a little bit about Gainsharing and what is it that you're trying to do with the company?
Gainsharing gets people aligned, particularly with their pay, to what the company's trying to achieve. Because when you get the pay aligned with what the company's trying to achieve, the performance improves immediately, the behavior changes, it just transforms everything, really. It's very powerful. The idea's been around for more than 100 years. It's very proven, but it's a very powerful, proven technique.
And how does it actually work in the real world?
How does it actually work in the real world? Well, companies implement the gain sharing system, and so they have their existing pay. And with the gain sharing, each week we're laying out, I call it describing what good looks like. So if we're going to, and it doesn't matter what kind of company it is, but manufacturing examples work easily, So in a company, there's certain numbers that you need to hit to be successful, to hit the profit numbers and all, and to satisfy the customers. So we're laying out what good looks like is what I call it. So at the end of the week, this is what we need to produce, and these are the orders that we have. And then I want to break that down into pieces so the different parts of the company can see, okay, here's this total picture that I'm trying to achieve, and then here's the pieces. And then they give people feedback as we're going through the week. So they can see this big picture, but now they're focused on their little part because they know, well, if each part does their part, the total rolls up to the total. And now it's a little game they're playing. And in most companies, especially manufacturing, one department's depending on another. So you have all this, but it ties part of everybody's pay and information to the total thing. So they're not just doing this little individual thing. I have my job. I work in a department. That's what my focus is. I'm also tied to the total output, to the total result we're trying to achieve. And it makes it so much more exciting and involving. And people don't show up for work and you run out of this material and this machine breaks, but I still need to get this total result. So between having the big picture and then having that broken apart and getting the feedback, it becomes a little like a game, like a little video game is a good analogy. Get focused on this and you get a group of people and they focus on trying to achieve something and get feedback, the performance will improve. And it doesn't matter, you're talking about a little league team or that's just how people are and how performance is. So when the people follow through on this, the performance improves and they realize, I was thinking this was going to be a sweat harder thing, but did we sweat harder? I don't know that we did. We just got organized and we make sure we felt, we didn't follow off our plan. And we fixed whatever problems we had, and we should do this all the time. So now it kind of takes over. So, in terms of answering how it plays out in the real world, there's lots of different angles to it, but really it's about laying out what the total challenge is and then breaking that into pieces and then having the people see, well, here's our part, and I'm going to make sure I do my part, and I'm going to make corrections and all this. So that's the basic flow of it. And then each week or each month or however the company does it, we're looking at what didn't go right and what fixes we need to be put in place, because now the people are looking at what we're doing like a system, and this is what we need to change so I don't have these problems next time. So that's a quick little synopsis for you.
It sounds, gamification comes to mind. So I know gamification can be very helpful in incentivizing people to do things. sort of gamification and gainification too, right?
Made that connection, but there's true. And high performance has been fascinating to me for my whole life. And looking at high performers, peak performers, Olympic athletes and that type of thing, they're very good at taking what they need to do and making it into a little game in practice and whatever they're trying to, that's one of their little gifts is they find the difficult thing that they need to improve and they make it into just Kobe Bryant in the morning would make, he'd set this objective. I'm going to make 1,000 shots, not I'm going to take 1,000 shots. And that was before. So it's like this little, and he did that every day.
The practice of it is really what is helpful, and giving yourself a goal in the end is also very helpful. You have to have a place to go, right? You have to point your skis downhill.
Yeah, we do what we can to make work exciting. I've always found whatever I did to be exciting and involving and all that. And I noticed that if you really were excited about what you did at work, especially, you kind of kept it to yourself because everybody didn't feel that way, right?
Uh-huh.
All of us have things we have to do. So if we can find a way to make it exciting and involving and just fun, that's just good on so many levels.
Yeah.
All high performers, that's what they do. They'll say that, in sports, for example, that whatever sport, it's going to be a grind at some point and you're going to be sick of it. So you need to find a way to love it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be spending so many hours doing this, You
need to keep the joy and find the fun. Yeah. How is it changing with AI? What is the industry doing with the onset of AI?
This is really fascinating because technology is proliferating in manufacturing. And so folks are trying to figure out, so how do we leverage this? How do we use this? And really what AI is doing is showing where we're missing the goals. It's giving us more information about what numbers we should be hitting and where labor isn't really effective and all this. But people are people, and people do what they do to get what they want. And so it doesn't address the motivation issue. So what we do is tie people's rewards to what we want. And now this starts to come together. So it's frustrating for me sometimes because the manufacturers now are so focused on getting the latest technology and they're forgetting about the people issues. If I have 100 people in a company and we make metal things like refrigerator cabinet kinds of things, well, I have this high-tech equipment and it's getting more and more high-tech all the time. But I need them focused on the throughput, the total flow. When I was in college, I was a construction laborer. And if we had to dig a ditch, there'd be 6 or 8 of us and we had shovels and away we go all day, right? So now they'd have a backhoe with 2 people, right? So now the leveraging of the technology is so much more important. But in a construction operation, this is when we're going to start and this is when it needs to be finished because the next guys, the concrete guys, they're coming on. If I can have people thinking about, well, here's the flow and here's what, so if they're tied to that bigger picture in a more meaningful way, it's really powerful. So the AI is of course coming and it's showing us where the opportunities are all at, but it doesn't address the motivation issues. The people think they have a productivity problem, but really they have an alignment and a clarity problem. Really where the power of the Gainsharing is it ties people's rewards, their self-interest to this total and gives them info on how to make that happen and adjust along the way to achieve that total result. Whereas they're paid, people get their individual pay and at the end of the year they may get a raise or something, but that's the only way they have to really increase their rewards. Their pay is the same whether they produce a lot or not. And so this completely changes that. So now we're tying the outcomes and their daily focus and everything to this total result that the company wants. And we're all pulling in the same direction. I was thinking the other day about, when I was a little kid, in grade school, and they have those drawings of magnets and the iron and all, and it's all going in different directions. But when you have something, everything lines up and how powerful that is when it shifts from, being all scattered to everything all in alignment. It's the same thing. When everybody in a company is focused on the same outcome, it's just so powerful. And AI and the increasing information leverages the potential for that alignment to really perform more than it ever has.
Mm-hmm. Is it a project management positioning thing in terms of clarifying for everybody on the team, or who does the clarification come from?
It is very much a project. It is one of the biggest problems that companies have, or at least that they think they have, is laying out what I call what good looks like. So if we're gonna have a good week or a good month or a good day or whatever, well, what is that? And then how do I translate that back through the system to tell people what they need to do? No company's ever at square one on this. So they can do better, but sometimes they get really frustrated that, gee, we don't know how to do this. Well, if you have 4 people in a garage and they do body shop work, right? I mean, just the most basic, scheduling kind of thing. Well, we're starting this car on this day, and this one needs to be finished by this day, and so you're not at square one. And so in terms of laying things out, that's what people need to do. The biggest mistake that companies make in trying to motivate people is they talk about it in general, because the rank and file worker and whatever you need the specifics. So I always get kind of a chuckle by this, that when you come out and you tell just say the direct labor workers that, okay, we have enough work and everything looks good, and they want to know, so what do I need to do my part to get a bonus, to be on track today? Here, and you give them the specifics. They want you to stop talking then, because that's what they needed. You just gave it to them, right? So we need to translate that big picture into the specifics. And of course it changes, right? The value of the plan is thinking it through, not that the plan's not going to change. So having the project management part of this is really huge. So when you tell folks, okay, so we have this outcome and everybody's going to make more money when we get it. Then they want to know, so what do you want me to do? Right? And that's where the project management part of it comes in. And it doesn't matter if you're a software developer or, managing a construction site or manufacturing. We have to take that total outcome and break it down so the people can tear into it and manage those specifics.
Yeah.
Very important. It's really the heart of it. And that's what that's what they struggle with. And that's what changes in a company before Gainsharing. Because before Gainsharing, you have a manufacturing place, 100 people, and they're trying to hit the numbers. Some customers are screaming, so we really pay attention to them, and everybody just shuffles through. And we're not giving them any more information to do better than that. They're just doing what they can. But when you go to what we're talking about, it's completely different. Now in their area, everybody has the same priorities. We're looking for the same goal. There's much more clarity throughout.
Sure. Yeah. It brings to mind how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So giving people the jobs that they need to do and having clarity around what exactly it is that's going to make the biggest difference is most important.
Stress relieving, I believe.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, when you say, okay, here's all the things, like with my to-do list, right? So I picked this up years ago. You take all the things you need to do and you put them on the list, right? And then you take the most important ones and you bring them to the top. And then you take the biggest, ugliest, meanest task on there and you do that first. But then when I'm doing that, I can forget about it because all I can do is this, right?
Yeah. Right.
The most important thing. So I believe, and it's the same thing for all of us at work, when we get the big picture laid out and then you take one bite of the elephant at a time.
Yeah.
It's very stress relieving. And then it's kind of fun too, right? Because you're thinking, okay, well, if I do 10 bites by noon, so now you're into that little game part of it. That's really the key. Is taking that big thing and breaking it down into the bite of the elephant that you're going to take now.
Yeah.
How it fits in with whatever everybody else is doing and how it's going to come together.
Sure. Yeah. Not encouraging anyone to eat elephants, but what are the biggest incentive mistakes companies are making?
Well, one of the first mistakes is what we were just talking about, is not telling people specifically what they need to do.
Okay. Yeah.
They just say, hey, we're busy, and if we, really tear into it. We have a good shot for a bonus, and then I go back to work, and what do? I don't know. Versus as we just laid out, knowing specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next is having whatever rewards they've laid out, not tied so that the company does better when we hit them. So they haven't tested them. One of the first things I do in setting up a Gainsharing system is I take the company's financials and I'm looking for the things that drive the profits. So when we drive this thing, the company really does better. So I want to make sure that when the people ask us, well, what do you want us to do? And then we do it, the company really does better. And I haven't forgotten something, some cost or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, I had a place, they hit all the numbers and they didn't have material costs in there. So,
Mm-hmm.
although the productivity was better and the scrap was lower and the production was higher, the material costs went up. So you get the idea. So
Yeah.
Those are the two. Oh, and then the last is having the rewards too far out into the future, annual or even quarterly, for high level management types. A quarter is a short period of time for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a direct or an indirect labor person, the idea that you're going to get a reward at the end of summer when the leaves are turning because you're hustling in June, it's just too long, right? So in psychology, we know that the closer that an outcome or reward comes to the action that was taken, the more powerful the motivation or the impact of that will be. So that shorter time frame is very important.
So I work a lot in marketing, and we set goals, marketing goals, and have quarterly goals and annual goals and things like that. It's not incentive driven though. I mean, we keep the client, right? But what's to stop people from setting goals that are easy to achieve?
Well, I need the total outcome that benefits the company too first, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so give me some kind of specifics here to work with here. Like too easy.
So, if for example, a certain amount of money can achieve a certain amount of impressions, for example, and you want to try to push it to achieve more. Yeah.
Okay. And we're not going further to conversions or anything, just impressions.
Well, I'm just starting with impressions for the purpose of, conversions obviously is the ideal goal at the end. But if without an incentive, it seems like you can set a goal that is easy to achieve, right? This is what I'm trying to get to. It's like, well, we can do that and we will win and we will look good, right? Yeah.
And we do. So when we're setting the goals, and maybe I'm going in the direction you're just thinking, let me know.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the goal that I'm shooting for is an acceptable goal to the person, that they go, that's achievable.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more than you don't want something where they go, well, there's no way I can achieve that.
Yes.
And then later on, when you miss it, they go, well, I knew before we start. And no.
Yeah, it has to be achievable.
Yeah. And then usually the goals that we're talking about, whatever the thing is, I can show that this has been done.
Mm-hmm.
So this first thing that folks are going to want to say in their mind is, oh, we can't do that. No, we already have.
Yes. Yeah.
But now,
yeah.
then it's out of the way. So then they're going to, so you have the goal, and then you're going to the tactics, right? How are we going to do this? And then like with a marketing objective like that, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to see if it looks like it's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With marketing things, you'll have something that'll work for 3, 4, 5, 10 years and all of a sudden stop working.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows why, right? But it just does. So now, but I'm going to be watching this and I'm going to be ready to adjust to other things. Yeah, I need the goal to be achievable and it's really acceptable to the person is what I'm saying. Because if they don't go, yeah, we can do this. Let's get on the horse and ride here. Let's do this. You're not even starting.
Yeah.
And then we're watching the tactics.
Yeah, for sure. We talk about, I teach classes and I also, use this in my practice, SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, which is achievable, relevant or recorded and time bound. That really, what you just said, the goals need to be achievable, is, not coming up with a goal that is completely outrageous, that is too hard for somebody to achieve, but making sure it is something that can be done. If you're Kobe, back to your Kobe example, he knew he could, get 1,000 shots. It wasn't out of his reach for where he was when he made that goal. Maybe, 10 years earlier, he could only get 100 or something. But yeah, so making sure they're achievable is super important. And
yeah, and it's an essential part of it. It really,
yeah.
because then they'll go do it. And then you're tapping into their pride, that, hey, I thought I could do it, and I told all the rest of you we can do this.
Yeah. Can you share a story of a company that saw very fast improvements with this?
This happens all the time. So I have a place, this is kind of interesting, a recent one, just to pick one here, in Texas, and they make water tanks for fire trucks. So fire trucks really aren't mass produced like cars are. There's the really small numbers and all that, and they're very customized. So this place makes these tanks. And so, they have a crew, and they're making these tanks and doing these numbers and all this. And then I really have to congratulate the management team, because in terms of their follow through and what do we need to do? Let's do it. And away we go. So we laid out what kind of numbers we'd need to achieve. And it was just a little bit more than they had achieved before. But then they just did what we talked about, that, hey, we got these tanks, and this one needs to be finished at this time, and I got to start at this time. And it goes through this process of cutting the pieces and then welding the little assemblies and then putting it together and then testing and all this. And their first period, they made a bonus. And it was really kind of an eye-opener for folks.
Mm-hmm.
What often happens is, like I said, you take the process, you break it into pieces, and then they just focused on their individual part. And because of that, the performance will improve. It just follows this Hawthorne effect that when you're paying attention to something, the performance improves. There was a change in the mindset of, well, we should do this all the time. It really wasn't all that hard. Then in the next couple months, they had significant increases in the orders, a couple really big, difficult tanks. So they're doing that on top of the schedule that they had before. And then they had a couple, like 2 months after that, of significant bonuses. Now, it was really interesting at that point, they lost a couple employees. There was folks that were kind of just going through the motions, and they really didn't like this new, hey, because one of the changes that they talked about that they got such a chuckle out of, that folks would move from one area to another without any argument or, sure, I'll go from here to there, to this other department to finish because we need folks more over in this particular. They just were rolling with that, and they were thinking about it and helping the plant manager with, what we should do. Let's do this first. And there was a couple employees that just weren't with that program. So they let them go. And so now the costs go down and the demand and the throughput is still high. So then we had another significant bonus, and people are, holy cow, they were kind of laughing among themselves. This has just been a transformation. But a good worker comes to work wanting to do a good job. And so when that environment changes to support that, and everybody else has the same, let's do it, let's get going, it's refreshing. But this kind of story isn't uncommon. I had another place in Lafayette, Indiana, and they make parts for locomotives. And when we put the plan together, they needed like $750,000 a month. There'll be and maybe 800 to be looking at a bonus. And we got to where we were regularly doing 900 and 950. And so they had month after month of bonus until they had a couple months where the volume went down, but then it went back up again. And now with fewer employees, they are regularly doing more than $1 million a month. And it's just how they do it. And so, and a big part of this is at the end of each week, we look at, okay, here was the plan. and it's broken down into pieces. So which areas hit their numbers and which didn't, and why didn't these areas hit them? And there's good reasons for this, because the demand changes, and all of a sudden, there's 3 machines that can do this thing, and a lot of the work is trying to go through there. I mean, just this kind of thing, But they're able to think about the process and how they could use other machines to do that if they had to, and they're thinking this through. And that's how that changes, because what we're looking at is the total flow of the work. And when people realize, if the metal just keeps moving through the shop, then we end up being tied to that greater output. We get a bigger paycheck. So now they're thinking that way, as opposed to, hey, I'm an hourly employee, I only want to get 55 hours. Now, as I'm saying this is our system. It's not like there's some kind of bad person. That's right. Yeah. But now we've changed the system. So they're looking at their hours and everything as they always did. But now they're looking at that total thing too. Yeah. This happens all the time. I need a management team that'll make decisions, and I need work to do. Those are the 2 big things that I need, because if you have those factors and you implement what we're talking about, the performance just steadily improves.
How quickly do you start to see improvements?
It varies, of course.
Yeah.
And the type of improvements change too. Sometimes the attitudes and everything can change before the results do. It depends. But usually within the first 3 months, a company will pay a bonus. Sometimes right off. Sometimes not the first month, the second month. But usually by the 3rd month, they've had a significant improvement in performance. The productivity performance on the low end, if they do what they're supposed to do, unless they get in their own way and refuse to, right? You understand? They'll have a 5% improvement, but it's not uncommon that it's up to 15 and can surge up higher than that, depending on conditions. And so I'm usually looking at like a 5 to 10% improvement in the first year. And then it depends from there. And there's no reason that doesn't continue to increase. Sometimes people are thinking, well, after you get the gains, you've squeezed all the juice out, the low hanging fruit or whatever. No, the gains don't reduce. No. Usually, if they continue, it's kind of like working out, Suse.
Yeah, I imagine.
If you do the thing and you eat right and you sleep right, you're going to be better off, right? And how long? Well, some people right away, but yeah. And then does it stop? No. If you keep doing it, you may get different gains or whatever, but you're not going to go back to where you started from or something. You're not going to lose what you have if you keep doing it. And so with exercise, that comes because you're following the basics, right? That never lose their validity, getting your sleep and it's the same thing with the gain sharing. You're planning out, you're communicating, you're solving. That's never going to lose its validity. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge analogy there also with weight training, Gainsharing weight training, same concept.
That's good. I like that.
But also it's the small incremental changes that you do consistently over time that have the biggest impact, right? I imagine that there's some that leaders start to understand who they should be hiring. I imagine people that are flexible or resilient and able to change with giving them newer tasks or different ways of doing things are easier to work with than somebody who's kind of stuck in their routine. Does that make any sense?
In every organization, there's the person that really likes to do the same thing over and over, and we need them. But we also need the others too, that are just happy to change from this to that and the other. So and the really flexible person that really kind of finds all this exciting, they're going to fit in better. But the people definitely need to be doing their part. Like we need a lot of people to say, where we say, here's the goal, and they can deliver it, and that's good, right? You get 100 people, there's going to be 10 that are just amazing. That's just how they are. And then you get 10 that are on the other side, and then you get the people. So that's just kind of how it is, Swaying those folks in the middle.
Okay. What's one thing leaders should do this week to move toward better alignment?
I would, to respond to that question, go to the project management, as you called it. And
Yeah.
I call it the needed production. This is the production that we need this week. And production applies to service organizations too.
Yeah.
And as we've laid out, I want the total overall that we're shooting for. And then I want that broken down into, like, McDonald's. I don't know if you've ever seen behind the counter, they have a time per customer kind of goal, that there's a flow, And so if I'm going to hit my numbers, there's a total for the week, but that means that each hour I need to be. So the point is I can take the big thing and break it down into bites of the elephant.
Yeah.
And that's really what the key is. That's what folks need. And then, and with that, they'll be able to tell management, there's no way I have this problem. Some system thing that how is the manager going to know? They don't have their nose in the, so it brings that to the surface. That will change performance more than anything. Rewards are important, but people are in a fog. If they don't know what they're supposed to be doing or how they're doing on it, they're in a fog and they're trying to do a good job, but they just don't know. Where am I? Where should I be? Should I speed up? Should I slow down?
Yeah. Yeah. How does the way people are paid introduce that conflict between workers and the company?
Well, this is a huge issue because people are paid for time and the company needs results. When you have a company and you go to see your bankers at the end of the year or and then you have your P&L, they're looking at that big picture and they don't see all these details. The people get paid for their time, so they're not tied to these outcomes that the business needs. And it's a complete conflict. This is the manufacturing coat of arms, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. But, and it's our system, and we're just setting it up crazy. If my rewards don't change if I produce a lot, why would I, so the overtime increases, the work slows down. I'm focused on the total result. I'm not focused on what is the customer getting. Is it what they should be getting? Are they happy? So it completely separates what the company's trying to do from how the people are rewarded. But when you change that reward and the information that people get, then it all just pulls into alignment. People are happy to roll with that, and it's more exciting for them than this boring, just put in my time. If you pay them for time, you get time. You get them on the job for a certain period of time. You don't get the results.
Yeah,
frustrating for management that they're accountable to the results, but their system is not set up to make that happen. Yeah, and this is a way to fix that.
And how did you originally get interested in high performance and productivity?
Well, as I said, I've always found working all exciting. Whatever I was doing, I enjoyed it. As I mentioned, I realized you didn't talk about it if that's how it was, And then I was a car and motorcycle mechanic, and I was at a auto dealership for a couple summers, and then I went to college, and I came back. And before I left, I had been the time person. When you do a brake job or whatever, the mechanic would get paid for a certain hour and a half or whatever to do this. So I did that before. So when I came back the next summer, the shop foreman had just quit suddenly. And so when I walked in, they were, Chucky, because I'm thinking, first of all, he's only going to be here for 3 months because he's going back to school. And he knows how to do all this. So this is perfect. So it was a great opportunity for me. So in this dealership, you had all different kinds of work. You had brakes and mufflers. You had air conditioning and fancy electronics. I mean, you had the whole panorama. And it was really interesting to me that the different mechanics one guy really liked brakes and mufflers and tires and that kind of stuff. And another guy was really good at electrical problems, but don't give him the brakes. And I found that fascinating and got into that. Now, at the end of the summer, they were teasing me that the whole thing worked out much better than they thought when they realized, that Chucky's going to be, shop manager for 3 months. But I found it really fascinating that they found it more rewarding if you could match up the kind of work that they wanted with so I could realize the psychology part of business and all this. I've always noticed that certain businesses, the people are excited about what they're doing and the company really performs and it's exciting buying their products and just being part of what they're doing, and other companies aren't. So I was really fascinated. So I went off to school and I ended up going into work psychology on this and I couldn't figure out how to make this happen. And then I was a graduate student working on my doctorate. And when you're a graduate student, you're kind of a servant to the professor. You kind of do their grunt work that they don't want to do, and they help you out, And so the professor that I was paired up with, just by sheer chance, had a Gainsharing project. And my job with him, we were doing surveys with companies. And at that time, the people filled the survey out with paper, and then it had to be typed into a computer. That was my manual labor job, right? So late at night, I'm so tired. I'm like cross-eyed. I got to stand up and move around, So I asked him, hey, he's there working late too. What are you doing? He said, well, I got this game show. He told me all about it. And I said, that's what I want to do. Oh, that's it. And he says, yeah, when you find out you're never going to be home and everything, you'll change your mind. And I didn't. And we were like a two-man team, like Batman and Robin.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's been the focus of my career ever since, because I've never found any other tool that does what we're talking about as well in terms of improving the company's performance and then getting the people more excited about the work they're doing and enjoying their day more than they did before and really getting involved in the challenge of the business and all this and having their pay tied to this bigger result. I think this is just really important, and can really talk about that for a long time, but I never found any other tool that does that. But just from a business point of view, the best reason to have a Gainsharing system and to do this is so your business is the bigger, stronger animal and able to compete in the marketplace and hire better people and pay them better. But there's all these other human things that come with it too. And I don't know, which is more important. We need them both. But I've never found anything that even compares to it. And it's effectiveness. It's proven effectiveness to do this. But it's because of the alignment of people's rewards. People do what they do to get what they want. So you're aligning as they go through their day to get what they want. They're simultaneously driving what the company wants, and away you go. And you just eliminate all these inefficiencies where people are working slow or wanting more overtime or causing problems to firefighting. All of that is diminished because if I can work a regular 40-hour work week and get a certain amount of money, why would I want to work 15 more hours to get the same amount of money? Why? No. Why take the long way? No. And they're involved in figuring that out.
There's a book I'm reading right now. It's called Who You Are Is What You Do. I think it's Horowitz. Anyway, it just reminded me of, people aligning with what they like to do and having some pride in doing the work that they do is very important. How are profit sharing and gain sharing different?
Oh, so just to answer the question directly, with profit sharing, a company gets to the end of the year and they know whether they're doing better or not, and they share. With the gain sharing system, not only am I'm paying throughout the year, usually monthly, so it pays more frequently, but it tells the people what they need to do to drive the gains throughout the year. With the profit sharing system, I'm just waiting at the end and seeing how we did and sharing it. With the gain sharing system, they're telling people all year, this is where we are, this is where we need to be, and it pays out much more frequently. Now, some companies have both gain sharing and profit sharing, and the names are the same. And what I'm saying, I'm not trying to disparage profit sharing. It's just different, and people mix up the terms, but it's really very different. And often, when I first start talking about gain sharing with company leaders, they'll say, hey, my profit sharing system does not motivate my people. No. I mean, they expect it and we do it and I'm happy to do it, but I'm not fooling myself that they're working hard in July because Santa Claus is coming in December. And they don't know so Suse is working on her job And here it is at the end of January, right? And then she's doing what she thinks. Now, when we get to the end of the year, is that what the point is? Everybody has their own opinion about what the performance is, about what good is, and we're not all aligned. And so it's not uncommon that someone would say, hey, I worked even harder this year and the profit sharing was lower. So now that you're paying out money and they're mad, it's just so ironic.
Yeah. So then why should I work hard?
Yeah. So now profit sharing can be a good vehicle for funding retirement things and that kind of deal, but in terms of motivating employees, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. It's the visibility of it. It's like, is what we are doing working? It shows up more in the gain sharing piece, right? It's like, it's more frequent so they can kind of understand that it is working or it's not.
Yes. Now, often companies start with profit sharing because they know at the end of the year whether they did better or not.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we put the gain sharing formulas together, we're establishing when we put the formula together that in a month or when I'm paying the gain sharing, the company will be doing better.
Mm-hmm.
The profits are higher, and that's kind of another discussion, but it's kind of an 80-20 thing where I find the things that are really most important in driving the bottom line, and it demonstrated to be effective. And so we've established that that's true. So, but the point is, folks like profit sharing because they're going to know at the end of the year whether they're really doing well or not. But you don't have to do that. There are ways now where we can show that when you're paying out on a monthly basis, you are doing better.
I watch a show called Below Deck. It's a luxury yacht, and these young under 30-year-olds all work together on this yacht and serve, affluent people who take these luxury cruises, and every time the cruise ends, they're like 2 or 3 days at a time, they all get a tip. And the tip is a different amount every time, and they're all working together to try to maximize their tip. And the tip is good. It's like, $1,500 or whatever it is.
Sizable.
Right? Yeah. And so they're constantly trying to figure out how they can all be a team to have the best experience for the guests on the yacht, so they get the biggest tip. So it's that, I imagine, in manufacturing or any company, really. It's like, how can each person do the best job they can do and still be part of the team to produce the best result?
And with that, especially with the yachts, what is the experience that the people above want? Some of them just leave me alone. I want a quiet time, right? I want everything provided for. And other clients, they would feel like the crew's snooty and leaving us, they'd be offended, right? So what do they want? Yeah. And tuning into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sure that varies quite a bit.
It does. Yeah. Most of them have like things that they specify they need, but it's how do they all work together to give the guests exactly the experience they're expecting? Yeah.
It's almost a Disney cast, how do you create that experience that they want?
Yeah, it's reality TV.
Yes, very much so, I'm sure.
I imagine this would be a good, doing a gain sharing reality show would probably be good.
I laughed with my clients, in manufacturing, who needs reality TV? We can just come to work. We have the people and the drama and the unpredictability, and it's really unfolding here, amongst all.
I keep joking with my advertising clients that they should do that. They should have a reality advertising.
That would be, I would like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about the 80-20. Are there certain essential parts to an effective gain sharing or pay performance system?
Yes. Yeah. Very, very quickly. The first part is to find the factors that drive the profits of the company. So the first thing I do with the company is get their P&L, because I usually take months and years, and I want to see when certain things change, does the company do better or not? And then I whittle away the things that don't follow that, and I'm left with these core. And then I can demonstrate when we control these things, did well on them, the company did well, and when it didn't. And this is the most important thing, because then what you're focusing on as the heart of the gain sharing is showing the health of the business. It's not some peripheral optional thing. It's kind of like the instruments in an airplane. They're showing you you're losing altitude. And then we want to set up rewards, right? Incentives for people to be driving those things. And then I want this needed production plan, like we talked about with the, the project management. Once we see that these are the numbers and this is how this all works, if I'm going to have a terrific, let's just say month, and I'm shooting for a better than 5% then I need to produce this much. And then we want to go to the schedule and do I have orders? Okay, then we're all set. And then I just need to break that back. And then we get going with this. And then I want feedback for the people on the big picture and then throughout so they can make adjustments along the way. So, and it really gets down to a daily thing is the way to do it. And then I want what I call the boots on the ground connection, where the individual person, worker in a given area knows what they need to do today to be doing their part for their area to hit their numbers. So I want them to see that overall, but then they need to know what they need to be doing. And so this is a total system. In the course of doing this, you're going to put a plan together and I'm supposed to get 10 things, but I only get 8. Well, why did I not get those 2? And why did those 2 not go and not some other? So I want folks to be looking at the system and thinking how they can, the Japanese have this term poki-oki, mistake proofing. How can I change the system so it's not possible to have that problem again? I want them putting fixes in place. And it's kind of like removing the bumps in an area. When I sand off the bumps, the next time I go through there, I don't hit that bump. And I want people thinking about the system and participating in that. Not only their individual effort, but how, and this becomes really powerful because people begin to realize, we can all work on this. But like the company I was saying, they started off at 750 and then they went to 850 and then they went to $1 million and now they're regular. Well, this is how it's happened. Well, this is when we struggle, when we get a lot of orders for these things and here's what we can do. And now they're much more well positioned to address these problems when they have them. And so the overall throughput, often talk about the production process being like a tube filled with marbles. And I want to pull 1 million marbles out. So the total throughput increases because we're looking at it as a system and maybe there's less effort. I was talking with that place I was mentioning with the fire truck tanks. And I just happened to laugh when we were in a meeting saying, sometimes before we do gain sharing, people are going to think, well, isn't this effort extra effort? And he started laughing. He says, no, it's not extra effort. And I really got a kick out of it. Why? And he says, because you're not chasing squirrels. He says, that's where your time goes. And he's in Texas. I just love that. Immediately what he's talking about.
Yeah.
All these random problems. Well, that's what the fixes are about. Is the people are involved in adjusting the system to, and that's a regular thing. That's part of what we do each week with what went well, what didn't, what should we change, should we try it? And so those are the 6 essential pieces of any successful pay-for-performance system or gain-sharing system I have found over the years. You need to have all those. Now, some companies will think, well, this is just a bonus system. I just need that. Well, that's just the incentives. That's just one. You haven't made sure that you're driving the things that really drive the profits. You haven't put together a plan. You're not giving people feedback. You don't have you need all the pieces. And then one hand washes the other and adds momentum to the others. But you need all 6 of those.
And you mentioned the, 750 to 850 to over $1 million. How much productivity improvement is common?
Well, like I was saying earlier, when you first start, unless you get in your own way, you're going to have a 5% improvement.
Yeah.
If you have work to do, it's quite common to have 10 or more, and then that can compound over the years. The next year, it's 13 over where you really started, and then 15. Now, this is business, of course, and cycles go up and down, so you have that in there. But it's not uncommon for a company to have a sustained 15, 20% improvement in productivity from where they originally started. Let's just say this company wants to beat a 5% profit. right? So if they're at 7, 8, 9, we can pay a little bit of that as a profit. Cool. But if we're at 2 or 3, no, right? So they begin to realize that, well, week after week, if we're positive for gain sharing, my P&L is going to be above 5. And they just see that. And so then they start laughing that, no, they're not nervous when they see a positive. They're nervous when it's not positive, right? And actually, I had these two brothers. Their father started the business, and they've had gain sharing for more than 15 years. I forget just what they were, a long time. And their numbers person had a health issue and passed away. And so the two brothers are looking at, well, what are we going to do? And he says, well, we know with the gain sharing that if it's positive, so they were kind of chuckling that, well, that's not everything. But in the next few months, when we're looking for a numbers guy, we can just make sure we're positive on gain sharing and the ship will stay floating here.
Yeah.
But, and I've really been rewarded by that over the years, because then the gain sharing is not some peripheral extra thing. It's integral into the business, and it's taking all this complexity and boiling it down into something simple. That we need to make sure that these instruments on our dashboard here look good, because it's reflecting how we are really doing, and they see that over.
What is the number one reason a company should consider gain sharing?
I would say competitive advantage, to be the bigger, stronger animal in your marketplace, because I believe companies are doing good in the world. They're providing things that folks want, that they want to pay for. And so when you're doing well at that, just think of some of your favorite things that you buy, maybe technology stuff, your phone or whatever, something that you just think is really, so that whoever that company is, that restaurant that you go, they're doing good in the world, right? So if they're able to expand that and hire better people and pay their people better, so in terms of, being the bigger, strong, that's what I'm thinking, is we're expanding the good that's being done in the world, both with the employees and the customers and all that. And then, I'd say that's because if your competitors are doing what we're talking about and you're not, if they are figuring out what good looks like, and each one of their employees knows every day, what do I need to do to make sure I'm on that? And we're solving problems. Well, you're in trouble if they're doing that. You are, because they're going to have a sustainable advantage. 10, 15 years ago, UPS has gotten better. But 10, 15 years ago, FedEx was all about this, their systems. Their founder, Fred Smith, he was a Marine, and it was all about execution and being excellent and all that. And you could buy trucks and airplanes and all that, but could you do it like they did, right? That's what I'm talking about. So that's the biggest reason. But then from there, I quickly go to the human side of things. A winner wants this environment. A winner wants to be challenged. A winner wants to be in the struggle. They want to fight. They want to win. And they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. I can really talk about this a long time, but I think this is a big deal. People get joy out of this. Just recently, I live in Indianapolis, went to a Colts game, and I was just fascinated by how they're engineering. We all live in this city, but all of a sudden we come into this stadium and we have this stuff in common. We're all wearing blue and white, and, they just do a whole list of things to take this group of people, and they're unified there. And we paid several $100. The point is, people really like this, and winners are looking for that feeling that they're part of something bigger than themselves too. And this participates in that too.
Chuck, how do you find your clients?
Well, your discussion of marketing is very fascinating. The gain sharing really is for elite companies. It's for winners. So it's not an easy thing, because I've been a regular FabTech speaker for years at trade shows. FabTech's a major trade show. And for years, I've done mailings directly to usually manufacturers. Then I have the little DVD, went to a flash drive, and now I'm going to just direct delivery of that. So, but I contact them directly, and then things go from there. Often people don't know about gain sharing. So several times a year, I'll have folks say, I've been looking for a rock solid way to do this, but I just didn't know of any. So there are folks out there that are looking for, answers like these, and it's just a matter of connecting with them and
Sure, yeah.
seeing where they are. Yeah.
I know you have a book that you wanted to share with our listeners too. Do you want to?
Be forever to put this together, but yes, I have a book here, The Gainsharing Revolution. Oh, here we go. Get to focus on him. Yeah. And I'd like to offer this for free, and you all, the listeners, just cover the shipping. So if you go to /free book, I will ship you the book for free and ask that you cover the shipping, and it's $9.95 separate. I think it's $19.95 for international.
Okay, great.
But this is a good overview of what we've been talking about here. It goes through those 6 pieces and other people's experience, and it's a good way to get a basic understanding of what we're talking about and how this could apply to any company. And it's really about how can I get this alignment that we've been talking about so that everybody's pulling in the same direction. And when you get that alignment established, the behaviors straighten out immediately, the performance improves automatically. And
Excellent.
I'd be happy to send that book to anybody that's interested.
Great. Finally, just quickly, what's your website?
Surprisingly, Gainsharing.com.
I think you mentioned that already, but yeah. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I look forward to learning more for sure.
Thank you for having me, Suse. I appreciate it.